This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
How are you doing, sir? Good afternoon.
I'm doing good. Our first show since they released the NBA schedule last week, and a bit of an interesting comeuppance for the team. Only 7 national TV games, and you know what, Big O? I think you and I talk about it in our Accurate Pembroke Pines report. I think the Miami Heat have to earn their way back into the NBA consciousness from where they were just 2-3 years ago. So I think the schedule sort of was a hard truth for the Heat. Become interesting, become compelling again. Right now, they're stuck in a little bit of a malaise.
No, that's because they're boring. It's a boring team to watch. Unfortunately, it is. I mean,
that's what I wrote.
Yeah, I mean, I know, and you just those are the facts. You know what I'm saying? And then I hear, what's it called? Windy say that Butler is going to be motivated, reprove himself, and all that kind of stuff. And talk is cheap, but I hope he does. But this is what I hear. You and I always go. I always go to a deeper conversation that I'd rather play chess than checkers, which that's the checker stuff. The chess stuff is, Ira, if I'm the Heat, I'm taking a page out of Mike McDaniel's playbook. I'm going to roll out the red carpet for Jimmy. I'm going to make sure that he is ready for every game that he can possibly play. I'm also going to pace him if I can. I'm going to try to act like listen to me. I'm going to try to act like I really want him to, we got to win. We got to take care of you. This and that. Feed that ego. Let him go and have the best possible, the most efficient year possible. Keep his body also efficient too. Here's what I don't want you to do if you're the Heat. Okay. And I can have this conversation with you because you're an all sports guy like me. I don't want you to Milwaukee Brewer CC Sabathia his ass. You remember, right? They traded for him and they threw him like 400 innings in a half of a season, right? Remember that? They were trying to make the playoffs. I think they even failed to make the playoffs even with Sabathia after burning him out and all that kind of shit. Don't burn him out, bro. Don't burn him out. Pace him. Take care of him. Feed him. Give him all that love. Pump him with all kinds of stuff. So that way he has a strong season. Hopefully you as a team, you have a strong season. Players develop. And then his ego grows where he says, I'm opting out and I'm out of here. And the burden is lifted off of you. If you burn him out, if you work him, if you CC Sabathia his ass and he breaks down, he picks up the damn option and you're stuck with him for another year. So you need to make this year Willy Wonka-ish. It has got to be a chocolate factory every damn day that Jimmy walks in there so he can have the best year, you can have the best year, and in the end, whatever happens will be the best for the Heat.
I'm going to go with your storyline, and I'm going to play along with it, but I'm going to sort of do Orlando Interruptus in the middle.
I love it.
Make Jimmy look good at the start of the season. Pace Jimmy so he's his best self. Get victories so you're successful with Jimmy. But Big O, and you and I will talk about this on our Accurate Pembroke Pines report in midseason.
I know where you're going.
You take a different approach. Set it up as if we embrace you, we love you. Hey, Jimmy, you need to go see Coach Riley with your playbook late January, early February, and then trade him. Big O, you know this because you have the pulse of the fans in South Florida. Just hold on for 1 second here. If the Miami Heat at midseason are 30-11, are going great, and they find a deal for Jimmy Butler that alleviates the end of the season concerns, that doesn't cost them future draft capital, that maybe brings back a better contract and salary. Okay, you say all well and good. The difference is Ira Winderman ducks in here on a Monday in the Accurate Pembroke Pines report and then leaves. You're here 5 days a week. How do you think Heat Nation, after a down season at 30-11, trading their superstar, what do you think, not your reaction, Big O, but your listeners' reactions, your texters' reactions, how do you think that will play in Heat Nation?
I think there'll be a smaller portion of people that will be pissed. I think the bigger portion are now realizing after the last 2 years that you're playing with fire with Jimmy already. And if you can go and get the capital you've never had, and that's the reason why you're the bridesmaid every single time and never the bride, and you have a chance with the youth foundation that you have to maybe possibly then go add maybe a younger star down the line. I think Heat Nation will take the loss up front because of the possible gain in the back. Now, we are going to have to deal with the loud complainers because the
Sure.
are always loud. It doesn't mean they're the majority.
It doesn't mean
Okay?
they're right. It doesn't mean they're right, is what you
No,
mean.
I know
Right.
they're definitely not right, but I don't think they'll be the majority. I just think that I think the Heat Nation, after watching the last 2 years and looking at Jimmy, they've got to already figure out what's going on with his body and where we're at right now. And you just can't. You came up with the even best scenario that if you can ride this, but I think if you're the Heat, you've got to make sure you create a great environment, man, because and you've got to try to watch. You got to protect him from himself too at the same time, just in case he gets a little crazy that he wants to prove too much, and you got to like kind of pace him there so that way you can have it, and you want to get him, and if you're stuck with him all the way to the finish line, you want him to finish the finish line strong and healthy so he has options and maybe gives you options to get freed.
But
That's all.
my scenario, the one I mentioned, you don't have to count on the playoffs because if it goes south there, or again, he sprains an ankle, he hurts a knee or something, then
Awesome.
you're done. Then all of a sudden is, well, Jimmy hasn't even played in the playoffs the last 2 years. What are we doing with the 36-year-old player? That's
Exactly.
the difference. Now, here's the deal. The Heat are a family team. They're a culture team. But we've seen, not as much recently, we saw it with Anthony Carter when his contract expired. They can be cold-hearted MFers also. Of course, Dwayne Wade in his contract year when the perception was he was getting too old. They have their moments. They've tried to come back from that. They might have oversigned players in the interim. The Waiters contract, James Johnson contract, some of the money they've given out. So you have to play it both ways there. But I think I would say this, and I talked to Jimmy's agent about this also. We go back and forth when we butt heads. I think that Heat has done right by Jimmy Butler. There's a bunch of people who say the Heat have not surrounded with Jimmy Butler with the talent he wanted.
Well,
no, Kyle Lowry, you go
well,
now.
that was Jimmy's call. That's his call. That's your fault.
They gave him a player. They gave him his call. LeBron would come here with Dwayne Wade. If they got Chris Bosh, they got Chris Bosh. They gave players his call. So, yes, now this offseason, what I'm getting from people around the Jimmy camp is this. Well, the best players they've added this offseason are Alec Burks and Drew Smith. So what are they giving him? They're not giving him the fuel he needs to move back up from the number 8 and the play-in seed instead. They're not giving him the chance. So you can look at it that way also. My thought is the Heat have been very good. And Jimmy Butler's been very good to the Heat. I think it's a symbiosis there. But you know what, Big O?
Have that agent call me so I can tell him, hey, by the way, Jimmy hasn't given the team the last 2 regular seasons an opportunity to have a higher seed either, my brother. So let's,
And this is sports. And 5 years.
All of a sudden, they want the team to carry the star.
Right.
That's not how it goes in the NBA, my brother.
Especially 5 years. You give someone 5 years. Look at LeBron. He has switched teams basically every 5 years since he left Cleveland the first time. That's the way the world is. It's not like they didn't give him a chance or build a relationship. You know what?
But he's a horse every night for whatever team, for USA or any NBA.
I understand that.
Yeah,
horse. If Jimmy Butler is traded at the trade deadline in February, Big O, I believe that Jimmy Butler's number 22 still will rise to the rafters of the Kaseya Center. Would you agree to that? Would you agree with that?
I have no problem with that.
Right. So I'm saying, so they will treat him as the star that he was and the commitment he gave to the team. But at a certain point, you move on also. Now, you might say, why not move on from Tyler? Why not move on from Bam? Because neither of them have been given center stage yet. That's the difference. And you can't, it's just like your Bitcoin and all your sales. You can't sell at the wrong time. You can buy at the dip and you sell when it's high and you get your value. And that's what they might have to do with Jimmy. It's not personal.
Bam is not ever a problem. Bam fits everywhere.
As he
So
showed in the Olympics, yes.
yeah, Bam fits everywhere. Just leave him alone. Your problem is you need to go find the two stars, and Tyler isn't one, and Kyle Lowry wasn't one, and Jimmy can't be one on a full-time basis. That's really that's the reality, unfortunately. That's where all your money's tied. It's tied to Tyler, it was tied to Kyle Lowry, and it was tied to Jimmy Butler. And if those three guys aren't stars for you, then this is why you weren't going to go deep. So unfortunately, the Tyler thing, he doesn't have the value to turn him around. You have to trade a piece again to move Tyler, and you just can't do that anymore. So you've got to try to rebuild Tyler. As for Bam, your frustrations are everywhere else. You have to look at Bam for what he is.
An anchor.
He's a fantastic number 3.
Building block.
Yeah, dude, he's fine. Your
Cornerstone.
problem is everything else you have failed around, actually, to really put the guys that can do the scoring stuff every single night. You need 2 stars around Bam to score every night, and then you'll have the balance that you need. If not, forget about it, dude.
No, I agree. And again, one other thing I didn't even mention, and I'm actually writing this may Ask Ira tomorrow, is, and you also have to explore Terry Rozier because you gave up so much for him. We have to see. Remember, Big O, he only played 31 games for the Heat. He didn't either play in game, he didn't play in the playoffs. So what I'm writing tomorrow, the Sun Sentinel, is for as much as people talk about the Heat's bad offseason, you can erase that like that if Terry Rozier comes on and you go, Ellisberg knew what he was doing. Instead of overspending this summer, he found a jewel last January that can contribute. So we still don't know this Heat mix because we have yet to see Terry Rozier in a playoff moment or a bigger moment for the Heat. So there's still a degree of hope. But to sort of go back to where I started, but they got to make themselves interesting. They've got to make themselves compelling. Winning is fine. This is also sports entertainment.
Yeah, well, that's why Jaquez has to entertain us and Jovic has to entertain us. That's what has to happen. Duncan has to come back and be the guy that keeps raining those threes and all that kind of stuff. That will entertain us, because what will entertain us is having a future and saying, oh shit, Jaquez is really growing. Oh, Jovic is really, really growing.
Ware.
Yeah, Ware is really giving Bam an opportunity to expand his game because
his
now
best self. Yes.
He can man the paint. So to me, if I'm a Heat fan, like I told you, I don't have a problem taking a step back for developmental purposes. And if you can move Jimmy for pieces, now all of a sudden you've got the ammunition you've never had. And that way you're not stuck being a delusional fan base every year going, oh no, we're going to get Markkanen and we're going to get Mitchell and we're going to get that guy and this guy. And no, you're not. You're not going to get any of them because you have no chips to play this poker game. Everybody else can outbid you and outbid you badly. So go get the chips, dude, and go. You got it. You got some young guys. Hell, you're hitting on the draft now. Keep doing that. That's what I say. Keep doing that.
Don't disagree. As long as you enjoy seeing youth grow and going through the necessary steps and the necessary foibles, I'm all about that. Again, what the fan reaction is on our Accurate Pembroke Pines segment every week might be a little different. I'll let you manage it the other 4 days a week.
Listen, I'll tell you. All right, so do you guys want to be, the fucking Kings every year, and you want to be, the fucking Hornets or whatever every year, the Magic? And I know now the Magic have a little nucleus now. But in general, I know they do, but what in general, like you kind of know the Pistons or whatever, if that's what you want to be, that's the Heat is never that. So I know Riley hates taking a step back or two, but it's not a step back or two where you're not an embarrassment, dude. There's a method to the madness. And if you're an intelligent fan, you have to understand that you've got to go through hell before you get to heaven, as they say, right?
I totally understood.
Was that Hotel California, right? You got to go through hell before you get to heaven?
Yes.
Yeah, so come on, dude. Let's be smart fans here. That's and be a smart organization. You have not been a smart organization the last several years.
Developmentally, they have been. Maybe some of the maybe some of the contracts they haven't been.
Contracts, the trades, the free agent moves, those things have hindered them. They're street free agents, undrafted free agents, and drafting and all that. They're excelling in that area. They're going above and beyond. What's hurting them is the shortcuts that they're trying to take. That hasn't worked, bro. Kyle Lowry has not worked.
And now we see about Terry Rozier. Maybe we'll talk about that this year. Hey, gave up an extra first-round pick also. Maybe that was another mistake. We'll see.
Maybe. I told you before when they traded for him, he'll play his best basketball here. So I would hold out on that one. I kind of have better hope for the Heat to get more out of Terry Rozier than anybody else ever has. And that's I count on them to do that with most players. Look, as long as the player is not Whiteside-ish, that where you lack this. If you're a professional, there's no reason you shouldn't excel with the Miami Heat.
Exactly.
Period. End of story. If you're a lazy bastard, I don't care if you work in the ticket department or you're anywhere in that organization. If you're lazy, you won't excel. If you work your ass off, everybody grows in that organization.
Totally agree. Could not agree more.
All right, what are you working on this Sentinel so folks can check?
I did a breakdown of the schedule because it came out last Thursday after I was on with you and looked at the top games. And here's a real interesting question now is you might downplay the Heat being the best team in the division because divisions don't mean that much, but they open against the Magic. And I raised the question, are the Magic a rival? And when you look at Paolo Banchero and you look at Franz Wagner and you look at Jalen Suggs in that team, the kind of youth that you love, that the Heat, let's face it, as much as the Heat have youth, Jaime Jaquez is not better than Paolo Banchero. Nikola Jovic is not better than Franz Wagner right now. The Heat's third best young player is not as good as Jalen Suggs. All of a sudden, the Heat are in chase mode for Orlando. So I think that opener is meaningful. Can the Heat still prove by coaching organizationally? Maybe Jimmy Butler and veterans, they're better. So I think there's some interesting games early in the season. The Heat can't afford what they had last year with a 1-5 start, and they're constantly chasing a tail. So no, I know every team plays 82, 41 at home, 41 on the road. They need a strong start. We're less than a couple of months away from that now.
Any truth that the Heat renegotiated with Jimmy Butler in his contract that he can't go to tennis tournaments during the season?
You know what? If they win games and he plays well and he wears ample sunscreen, Ira has no issue.
Follow him on Twitter at Ira Heatbeat and catch his exceptional work there at the South Florida Sun Sentinel. Ira, we will catch up next week, sir. Thank you.
Catch you next week in our accurate Pembroke Pines report. Thanks, Big O.
You got it, my friend. There you go. And, of course, when it comes to Acura Pembroke Pines, you got to go see Larry Schlossberg, Pat Nasto, Tony Stampone, all the great people there. Service Center, Mike Chan, Jordan Ferber. They just do a great job. And remember, you can get electrified now. The ZDX is there. You got to go take a test drive. That thing flies, okay? And right now, you can get it for $479 a month. And by the way, with a lease, conquest, or loyalty, $369 a month. They've got right now 0.9% financing for 72 months. That's amazing. The RDX, we have one in our household. You can get the 2024 for 60 months at 3.9% financing. They've got it for $399 a month. The 2025 Integra, yes, the 2025s are rolling in right now, $349 a month. In stock right now for immediate delivery. Go check out the lot. It is loaded, overloaded, and also a great selection of certified pre-owned vehicles too at 15601 Pines Boulevard, just off of I-75 in Pines. Finest dealership in the business. There's no better Acura dealership than Craig Zinn's Acura of Pembroke Pines.